It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Niccolo Machiavelli. But what happens when someone is both? When someone feels your pain and still chooses not to be broken by it? When someone can comfort you with warmth and in the same moment calculate exactly how much power you've just handed them? That is when you meet the most dangerous personality type alive today, the Dark Empath. How many times have you been used because you cared? Think about work. You help your coworkers, you cover shifts, you solve problems nobody else wants. People smile, they thank you, they even call you the heart of the team. And yet, when the big promotion comes, you're not even considered. The loud opportunist gets it. The flatterer wins. And you're left drained, invisible. Be honest. Has this happened to you? If yes, type yes in the comments right now. Because here's the ugly truth. Society lies about kindness. We're told that if we're generous, patient, compassionate, we'll be rewarded. But in reality, kindness without boundaries paints a target on your back. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that a ruler must appear merciful, faithful, humane, but must also be ready to act with the opposite when survival demands it. And this is the birthplace of the Dark Empath, someone who still feels deeply but refuses to be sacrificed on the altar of goodness. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a choice. It's a breaking point, a betrayal too deep, a heartbreak too raw, a friend too selfish. One day you wake up and realize explaining yourself doesn't help. Chasing people doesn't work. Bleeding for others only leaves you empty. That's when the shift happens. That's when an empath becomes something else. The Dark Empath doesn't stop caring. They stop wasting care. They still see every fracture in people, the hesitation in a laugh, the envy behind fake praise, the weakness in arrogance. But instead of rushing in to heal, they step back. They catalog. They calculate. Have you ever met someone like this? Someone who never raises their voice, never begs, never argues, but always seems 2 moves ahead? That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That is the Dark Empath strategy. Their first weapon is silence. Most people fear silence. In a conversation, they rush to fill the void with excuses, explanations, nervous chatter. The Dark Empath doesn't. They let silence do the work. Silence makes liars stumble. Silence makes manipulators overplay their hand. Silence exposes weakness. Their second weapon is emotional radar. Ordinary people hear words. Dark empaths read tone, pauses, posture. They don't just listen, they decode. They can tell who secretly envies them, who resents them, who's bluffing. And here's the terrifying part. They don't announce what they know. They just remember. Their third weapon is boundaries. Try to guilt them, they don't react. Try to shame them, they don't flinch. Try to control them, they disappear. Most people crumble under guilt or rejection. The Dark Empath doesn't. That's why weak people call them cold, but Machiavelli would call them untouchable. There was once a man who was the nice guy of his office. He bought gifts for co-workers, covered their mistakes, stayed late for free. Everyone liked him, but nobody respected him. Then one day, after being passed over for the 3rd promotion in a row, he snapped. Not with anger, with clarity. He stopped covering for people. He stopped over-explaining. He stopped bleeding for those who drained him. At first, people said, "You've changed. You're selfish now." But weeks later, he walked into the office differently. His silence made others uneasy. His calm presence demanded attention. When the next project needed a leader, who got the call? Him. Why? Because people fear the unreadable. They fear the man they can't manipulate. They fear the Dark Empath. Here's the paradox. People know how to manipulate kindness. People know how to counter aggression. But how do you fight someone who feels everything, yet reveals nothing? You can't. That's why the Dark Empath terrifies people. Their silence cuts deeper than arguments. Their absence hurts more than their presence. Their boundaries are walls you cannot climb. When you stop giving unlimited access to your heart, the world calls you cold. But you're not cold. You're sovereign, and sovereignty is what weak people fear most. Machiavelli said a ruler must be both fox and lion. The fox to detect traps, the lion to crush wolves. The dark empath is both. They see every trap. They walk through every snare, and when pushed, their strength is terrifying. But there's something more. They are also the shadow, unseen, unreadable, unreachable, until it's too late. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear." But what about the rare few who command both, who can inspire love through understanding and fear through unreadable strength? These are the historical dark empaths, rulers, leaders, and visionaries who weaponized empathy without being enslaved by it. Julius Caesar wasn't Rome's strongest soldier. He wasn't even the most brutal general. But he was unmatched in one thing, the ability to read hearts. When he spoke to soldiers, he touched their pride. When he addressed the Senate, he spoke to ambition. When he reached the people, he gave them hope of prosperity. Yet behind this empathy was calculation. Caesar knew that affection alone couldn't protect him. He rewarded loyalty lavishly, but he punished betrayal swiftly. He understood people's wounds and desires, and he bent them to his will. Isn't that exactly what a dark empath does today? They don't need to manipulate outright. They simply understand people so deeply that they can redirect them almost invisibly. Elizabeth I inherited chaos, enemies abroad, traitors at home, and an England that doubted her because she was a woman. How did she survive? Not through brutality, not through softness, through calculated empathy. She charmed ambassadors, listening more than she spoke. She gave her people an image they needed, the Virgin Queen, married to her nation. It wasn't just symbolism, it was emotional strategy. By embodying loyalty to England, she became untouchable. But here's the Machiavellian twist. She never gave anyone too much access. She knew that intimacy meant weakness, so she maintained distance. She inspired trust, while never fully trusting anyone in return. That's dark empath mastery, offering warmth as a mask, but holding sovereignty behind it. Fast forward to America's Civil War. Abraham Lincoln was mocked, doubted, even hated. But his strength wasn't in shouting louder than his enemies. It was in listening. Lincoln absorbed insults without flinching. He studied his rivals' insecurities. He used empathy to understand even the fears of those who wanted to destroy him. But he never let that empathy cloud his vision. His silence unsettled his enemies more than arguments ever could. Does that remind you of anyone? The friend who doesn't argue, just watches. The coworker who says little but seems to know everything. The partner who doesn't fight back but simply leaves without a word. That's dark empath energy. Today, we see the same strategy everywhere. The CEO who rallies a team not by barking orders, but by sensing morale shifts before anyone else notices. The politician who feels the pain of the people, but never lets that compassion prevent ruthless decisions behind closed doors. The public figure who seems endlessly warm in front of cameras, but completely unreadable in private. This isn't luck. It's dark empath strategy in action. And here's what makes it terrifying. Unlike narcissists or sociopaths, dark empaths can actually inspire love. They can be adored and feared at the same time. In one company, a woman was quiet, not shy, not weak, just observant. She rarely spoke in meetings. She smiled politely, listened carefully. Around her, others played the usual corporate games. One coworker boasted loudly to impress the boss. Another flattered everyone, desperate to be liked. Others gossiped, competing for attention. She said little. She just watched. Months later, the loud one self-destructed under arrogance. The flatterer got exposed as incompetent. The gossips turned on each other and her. She was still standing, calm, trusted. When the boss needed someone reliable, she was the only choice. That's dark empath power, outlasting everyone else without lifting a finger. Machiavelli warned rulers to be both fox and lion. But dark empaths add something more: the mirror. The fox detects deception. The lion intimidates predators. The mirror makes others reveal themselves. People expose their weaknesses around dark empaths because they mistake empathy for openness. They think silence means weakness. They think patience means submission. And by the time they realize the truth, the dark empath has already won. The wise ruler doesn't waste strength in every battle. They conserve it for decisive strikes. The dark empath lives this truth every single day. Their battlefield is not just kingdoms and empires, but boardrooms, relationships, friendships, and families. And their tactics? Subtle, quiet, but devastatingly effective. Most people panic when silence falls. In a meeting, silence feels awkward. In a fight, silence feels unbearable. But the dark empath? They weaponize it. Imagine this. You accuse them of something. You expect denial, excuses, explanations. Instead, they just look at you, calm, silent. And in that silence, you start to squirm. You over-explain. You reveal more than you wanted. You expose your own guilt. That's the trick. Silence is not emptiness. It's pressure. And the one who controls silence controls the conversation. The dark empath's greatest power is their ability to feel what's not said. They notice the twitch in your eye when you lie, the hesitation in your voice when you flatter, the fake smile when you envy. They don't always call you out. They don't need to. They file it away like notes in a hidden journal. And when the time comes, they already know who to trust and who to cut off. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "The prince who is not wise himself cannot be well advised." The dark empath doesn't wait to be advised. They already see the truth. Try to manipulate them with guilt, it fails. Try to shame them into submission, they don't react. Try to control them with threats of abandonment, they walk away first. This is why weak people call them cold. But boundaries are not coldness. They are sovereignty. Imagine a partner who tries to guilt you. "If you loved me, you'd do this for me." Most people defend themselves. A dark empath doesn't. They simply reply, "If that's what you believe, then this isn't for me." End of discussion. It's ruthless and it's effective. Picture a woman in a toxic relationship. Every fight ends the same. Tears, guilt trips, accusations. She explains, she apologizes, she compromises, until one day she stops. Her partner yells, she stays silent. He demands, she doesn't respond. He accuses, she just walks away. And suddenly, the power flips. His tactics no longer work. His control collapses. Why? Because you cannot manipulate someone who refuses to play the game. This is the dark empath in action. Here's the secret. The dark empath doesn't need to expose people. They let people expose themselves. A coworker lies. They don't argue. They let the lie unravel on its own. A friend betrays. They don't scream. They quietly cut ties. A rival mocks them. They don't retaliate. They simply watch, wait, and let time destroy arrogance. This is what Machiavelli meant when he advised rulers to be patient hunters, to strike only when the prey reveals its weakness. This is perhaps the most feared move of all. The ability to walk away without warning, without closure, without drama. Most people beg, they plead, they chase. The dark empath doesn't. When their line is crossed, they're gone. No explanations, no apologies, just absence. And here's the irony. Absence often hurts more than presence. People realize too late what they lost. But by then, the dark empath is already moving forward because people expect predictable patterns. They know how to handle anger. They know how to handle kindness. But someone who blends both, who listens deeply but refuses to be controlled, is terrifying. Dark empaths break the script. They turn silence into strength, boundaries into weapons, and empathy into armor. And that unpredictability makes them untouchable. Let's return to the workplace. A man helps everyone, shares ideas openly, supports colleagues, and then his closest teammate steals his idea, presenting it as their own. Most people would explode, shout, demand credit, but not him. He stays calm, he says nothing. He observes quietly as his teammate enjoys the spotlight. Weeks later, when the pressure mounts and the teammate can't deliver, he steps in, prepared, confident, undeniable. The boss notices, the team notices, and suddenly he's the trusted leader. Not because he fought, but because he let the betrayer dig their own grave. That's dark empath warfare, winning without war. We've seen how silence, radar, and boundaries shape the dark empath's arsenal. But theory alone doesn't shock the mind. To really understand their danger, we need to watch them in action, and not just in the past, but in the offices, governments, and homes we live in today. Picture an open-plan office. The air smells like ambition. One man is loud, always boasting about numbers. Another flatters the boss, handing out fake compliments. Others gossip, fighting invisible battles for approval. And then there's the quiet one, calm, patient, always listening, always watching. Months pass. The loud one collapses under arrogance. The flatterer gets exposed as incompetent. The gossips turn on each other. And the quiet one, they're still standing, trusted, respected, promoted. They never shouted. They never fought. They let others burn themselves out while they conserved energy. That's dark empath power in the workplace, winning without war. Now imagine a toxic relationship. One partner yells, manipulates, demands. For years, the other explains, apologizes, compromises, until one day, silence. The empath stops explaining, stops defending, stops bleeding. The manipulative partner panics. They yell louder, they beg, they accuse, but nothing works anymore. Why? Because the most dangerous move a dark empath makes is walking away. No drama, no closure. Just absence. And absence hurts more than presence ever did. Politics is theater. Most leaders roar like lions or scheme like foxes. But the most dangerous ones? They play both and add the mask of empathy. They step in front of the cameras, listening with soft eyes, speaking to the people's pain. The crowd trusts them, even loves them, but behind closed doors, they cut deals with ruthless precision. They never show all their cards. They project warmth while maintaining distance. This is how dark empaths thrive in power. They don't just win votes, they own loyalty, because they know exactly what people want to feel, and they deliver it without being consumed by it. Here's a real-world case. In a small startup, the founder's best friend was also his partner. The friend constantly bragged, dominated meetings, pushed ideas aggressively. The founder, a quiet empath, always yielded. Until betrayal came. The friend tried to cut him out, tried to claim the company, but instead of exploding, the founder went silent. He let the betrayer make noise, expose his arrogance. He quietly spoke with investors, calmly shared data, patiently built alliances. Weeks later, when the betrayer collapsed under his own ego, the founder was still standing, stronger than before. This isn't just survival, it's dark empath strategy, outlasting without confrontation, letting rivals destroy themselves. Here's the truth. Dark empaths don't need to fight to win. Their very presence unsettles others. Why? Because they're unreadable. The narcissist hates them because they can't be controlled. The manipulator fears them because guilt no longer works. Even ordinary people project suspicion because they can't categorize them, and people fear what they can't categorize. It's not just offices and politics. Families, too, are battlegrounds of manipulation. The parent who guilts their child, "After everything I've done for you." The sibling who plays victim, "You always had it easier than me." The relative who demands loyalty at the cost of your peace. The naive empath collapses under this. The dark empath doesn't. They love their family, but with boundaries. They care, but without surrender. They can sit in a room of guilt trips and stay calm, unmoved. And that calm is more powerful than shouting ever could be. Machiavelli would admire the dark empath. Why? Because they embody his core principle, appear virtuous, but act strategically. They appear kind, but never give unlimited access. They appear patient, but strike with precision. They appear harmless, but are feared the moment boundaries are tested. This is why they rise in any environment. They combine the fox's cunning, the lion's strength, and something even more unsettling, the empath's understanding. Machiavelli warned, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." The dark empath embodies this principle. They are not dangerous because they dominate others. They are dangerous because no one can dominate them. At first, becoming a dark empath is about survival. Betrayals, heartbreaks, manipulation, they harden you. But survival isn't the end. With time, survival becomes strategy. Strategy becomes strength, and strength becomes sovereignty. Most people are trapped in cages they don't even see. The cage of needing approval, the cage of fearing rejection, the cage of belonging even when it costs peace. The dark empath shatters those cages. They may walk alone, but they walk free, and freedom terrifies those still enslaved. People fear what they cannot categorize. Too kind to be cruel, too distant to be naive, too emotional to be cold, too calm to be manipulated. This paradox unsettles everyone, because if they can't predict you, they can't control you, and unpredictability is the most Machiavellian power of all. Machiavelli wrote that appearances rule the world. The dark empath wears a mask of calm empathy, while behind it lies ruthless clarity. That mask makes them underestimated, and underestimation is the ultimate shield. When rivals believe you are harmless, they expose themselves. When manipulators think you are naive, they overreach. And when enemies think you are weak, they waste energy preparing for the wrong fight. By the time they realize their mistake, it's too late. Think of someone you knew who was always available, always giving, always soft. And then, one day, they weren't. They stopped answering immediately. They stopped apologizing for everything. They set boundaries you weren't used to. Suddenly, you felt uneasy. You thought, they've changed. They're cold now. But the truth? They hadn't become cold. They had become sovereign. And their sovereignty made you realize just how much control you'd once had. That's why people call the dark empath selfish. Not because they're selfish, but because they refuse to be used. The dark empath doesn't play for domination. They play for independence. But in mastering themselves, they inevitably rise above others. In the office, they don't beg for recognition, which makes them respected. In relationships, they don't cling, which makes them magnetic. In politics, they don't scream, which makes them powerful. The irony? By not needing control, they gain it. Machiavelli would have admired them because they combine all his archetypes: the fox detecting deception, the lion embodying strength, the mask appearing virtuous, and the shadow revealing nothing. Most people stop at one, but the dark empath blends them all invisibly. Picture a boss who never yells, never flatters, never overshares. They listen more than they speak. You can't tell if they like you or not. You can't tell what they're planning. And that unreadability? It makes you respect them and fear them. Now multiply that by every arena of life. That's the dark empath. Here's the ultimate paradox. The dark empath doesn't seek to conquer others. They seek to liberate themselves. But in becoming free from guilt, shame, and manipulation, they become untouchable. Most people chase validation. The dark empath doesn't. Most people crave to be understood. The dark empath doesn't. Most people beg for belonging. The dark empath doesn't. And the moment you no longer crave what others use to control you, you become immune. This is what Machiavelli meant by necessity. The world doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards leverage, clarity, presence. And the Dark Empath has all three. Their sovereignty is terrifying because it can't be bought, manipulated, or broken. Their presence is unsettling because you don't know where you stand with them. And their empathy is valuable precisely because it is selective, offered only to those who have proven worthy. So, now it comes to you. Will you remain the open book, bleeding for those who exploit you? Or will you become the locked manuscript, selective, sovereign, untouchable? Because here's the truth. The most dangerous person is not the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and obeys nothing. If you recognize yourself in this, comment below. Are you a dark empath already, or are you still becoming one? And if you're not afraid of these ruthless truths, subscribe to Ruthless Psychology. Here we expose the hidden rules of power, control, and survival. Because in the end, the world doesn't care about your kindness. It only respects your sovereignty. So take back your power. Become the paradox. Become unreadable. Become untouchable. Because Machiavelli was right. The world belongs not to the loudest voice, nor the softest heart, but to the one who can feel it all and still walk away sovereign.